I'd like for you guys to, at this moment, if we can go from left to right here and just say your name and tell us what district you're running in.
Brandon Johnson, District 1.
My name's Janie Green, and I'm sitting here for Janet Wilson. No, we're not related, just good friends, and we're going for District 1 as well.
John Stevens running for District 1.
William Stofer, District 3.
Okay, so very good. Thank you very much. What we're going to do is we're going to have an opening statement. Hold your questions. We'll have the opening statements, and we want those to be no longer than 3 minutes so that we have time for the questions. And sometimes questions can get really deep, and we want most of the time for the question and answer period. But we would ask each candidate to stand up and just tell us why you're running and anything else you want us to know about your background and so on. But the big question to answer at this time is, why did you decide to run? So we'll start right here and go from left to right.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mark, for having me. My name is Brandon Johnson. I am running for Wichita City Council District 1. I am a lifelong Wichitan. Went to Northeast Magnet, and I went to Friends University, played football there with Coach Lewis. Then I also had the opportunity to coach. I then went to Wichita State University, majored in sociology. During that time, I have served not only Wichita, but the state of Kansas. I was appointed to the Kansas Advisory Group of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, first by Governor Sebelius, second by Governor Parkinson, and then reappointed again by Governor Brownback. I think that's a testament to the work I've been doing in this community. I've been working with young people to teach them employable skills, financial literacy, and also entrepreneurship so they can control their own destiny and create their own revenue. At the same time, I worked in juvenile justice to also show those young men, because I worked with young men, that if they made a mistake in life, they had an opportunity to correct it. This society gives us all second chances, and if we could build the right skills, they could come out and be productive citizens. At that same time, I was starting a nonprofit called CORE, that stands for Community Operations Recovery Empowerment. We worked with the community to engage around issues that are tough, law enforcement, community relations. I'm sure you all have heard about that. We wanted to bring community and law enforcement together and talk about the rights that citizens have versus the rights law enforcement have, and how we can work together and be productive. We were very successful with CORE in doing that. I've been working with the chief as well on community policing. That's something that I definitely support and want to see more officers on the force and getting better relationships again with the community to build that trust. I'm running to build on the progress we've seen under Levonta Williams and former Mayor Brewer and advance opportunity throughout the heart of the city. And I ask for your support and your vote August 1st and November 7th. And I stand for questions later. Thank you.
Thank you.
As I said, my name is Janie Green. I'm standing in for Janet Wilson. I can't speak everything for Janet. She apologized, but she's in Omaha at another conference. You know, it was planned year in advance. So, but I can tell you, Janet is a hardworking woman in the community, in the city of Wichita. If you've been to city council meetings or District 1 advisory board meetings, you've seen Janet. If you're part of a neighborhood association, you've seen Janet. She's involved in she loves her community. She started community gardens. She's involved in a lot of different areas, and she loves this city, and that's why she is running for city council. I just want to say she's a dedicated person. For many years, she's devoted endless time, finances. She's given all to individuals as well as groups. She helped anyone. Just want to speak for her on that behalf.
Thank you very much. And John?
I'm John Stevens. I'm running for the 1st District. I'm lifelong Wichitan, except for a few years going to college in Texas. I studied industrial engineering at Laterno University. Studied accounting out here at Wichita State. Graduated East High School in 1961, so I got a little age on me. But I think that District 1 is a very good district. It has problems that need to be solved. Our city has problems that need to be solved. And the paper that I handed to you there to put on the table, I will discuss that a little bit if the opportunity presents itself. I've recently been on the Animal Control Advisory Board, and I got to tell you, we have folks in our community that are losing their mail service because the animal control hasn't had enough funding to take care of what's necessary to keep the running at large dogs down in these areas where they deliver mail to citizens. And if that happens, the Postal Service will come along and just cut off mail service for a 2 or 3 block area. There are so many stories, I can't tell them all to you. They just keep coming up. And people call me and tell me their story. Dogs hurt people. But the main problem is that dogs are owned by someone. So in most instances, we're talking about a owner who doesn't wish to be responsible. So the fees and the fines need to be adjusted to take care of that sort of thing. I have a lot of concern about what I used to think economic development was a beautiful word. Nowadays, I don't think it's so much fun anymore. It's not really good. It's an opportunity for the developers in our community to just get crazy and stick it to us taxpayers. We don't need to tear down Century 2. We don't need to do some of the things that they do. Now, we're building apartments in downtown Wichita, and the apartments are fine. I have no objection to that, except I don't want my tax money paying for those apartments and that developers cost to build those. Same way with hotels. We built hotels downtown. I don't have any problem with building hotels. Is that
Just about.
time up? More later.
More to come. My name is William Stofer, and first of all, I'd like to thank you all for inviting me. I have been a resident in District 3 for over 35 years. I'm actually 20 years old, but I'm still great for living in District 3. I say that jokingly. But seriously, Southeast Wichita is the last resort. We've always been treated like that ugly stepchild. And every candidate, every incumbent we've always had abandons us, and we never progress. So if I'm elected to city council, District 3, District 3, District 3 is what you will hear out of my mouth. What's in it for my constituents? We're tired of being ignored and treated like that stepchild. We're going to grow an economy. And how we do that is, I don't have time to go through all my initiatives, but we're not going to cater to the big corporations. It's the small guy, the small business, the entrepreneur that needs propped up. That's how you grow an economy. And through my initiatives, if you ever take the time to read them, you'll see how we will do that. And one of the first things we'll do, or that I have planned to do, is that we're going to have our own South End Development Corporation, so that we have somebody representing us. We have the Downtown Development Corporation, we have Delano as a strong neighborhood association, and the North End does. We've got nothing. We've got nobody out shooting for us. So we're going to attract small business and develop things in the southeast part of Wichita. And thank you for inviting me once again and taking the time. I hope you support me.
Let's give these candidates a hand. It is now time for the questions and answers. Do we have any media present tonight? Seeing none, then the people get to go first. If you have a question, I see Beverly already has one, please be concise with your question. We don't want a long, drawn-out speech about what matters to you. If you want to put a little bit of background to your question, that's fine, but keep it as concise as possible. And we're going to take a question, one from everybody first, and then afterwards, if you have two questions like I do, then you can ask one later. But Beverly will take yours first. And when you make your question, specify if it is going to be for all the candidates, for the first district candidates, which would be these three here, or for a specific candidate. So if you don't specify, it's assumed to be for all of them.
I want John to expand a little bit on hotels, finish that up, and then for all four of you, or all three of you, because I don't know if this lady knows Anna's position, I want to hear what you think about the downtown developers and how particularly construction and all of them are just just freewheeling there.
Okay, I'm gonna let you have the two questions, but let's cover John's first, then I want you to repeat the second question for everybody, because we'll lose that second question. John, go ahead and answer her first question first.
On the back of this sheet that I handed out to most of you, if you don't have one, we'll get it to you. There is a example of a TIF. They call it a TIF, tax increment financing. That's what they did on the Ambassador Hotel down at Broadway and Douglas. And you can see all of the free money that the developers got to do this project. That concerned me. Now, they've cut that back a lot, but it's not free for us taxpayers to give a TIF to a developer. And my motto in this thing is, I think taxpayers should be priority one. Now, on the front of this sheet, you can see neighborhood cleanups. That costs a little money, but they're scared to death they're gonna give a little money for us to have neighborhood cleanups. That's where the city, once a year, pays for one of the trash hauling companies to come by and help neighbors get rid of their extra trash, the junk in their garage, whatever. And it's been a very fine success in our neighborhood. I think it's been in George's neighborhood a good success too, hasn't it, George? And the other pictures along the side over here, this is a gentleman that was on the front page of the Eagle. He has a baseball bat. He's looking at that dog that's looking like he might want to bite him. And we have a lot of folks in our community that do not have their postal service. That has to be taken out to the street like you see in this other picture down here. And those folks that have to go out and get that postage delivery at the street instead of their house because some unresponsible neighbor let that dog run at large and the postal service can't have a problem with their personnel. So I don't blame them, I understand that. But the problem is that leaves our citizens to have to go out and face the same dog that the postal carrier faced. Now it's gonna take $300,000 or $400,000 to fix animal control. We need 3 additional animal control officers. We've made a study of this over the last 18 months. We've made recommendations. But you can see on this sheet, they gave $300,000 to the developers' interests here. They didn't give it directly to the developers, but this is a study of 30 acres around Century 2. And these people that own this property around Century 2 are gonna benefit from this. As far as I'm concerned, that should have been paid for by the developer. They're the ones that get the benefit of it.
Here, here.
And our taxes have to pay that. So, now, the other, just one other, Jack DeBoer rented a piece of,
Are we getting into Beverly's second question here?
am I taking too much time?
I think you fully answered the question. Your
Okay.
second part of your question or second question.
I want each of you to respond as to how you will represent the taxpayers and how you'll reel in that crazy spending that's going on in City Hall on all different.
Yeah, 3 minutes. Okay, so here we go. What we're gonna do is we're gonna start here at this end, and if you can answer the question within 3 minutes, that would be nice. Sometimes it doesn't work, we realize. We'll take it on a per question basis. Go ahead, shake your timer. But we'll go ahead, we'll go from right to left here and go ahead. And answering the question here, Beverly, say it again.
How do you plan to reel in that crazy spending that's going on in City Hall on a number of issues that are.
All right, so the question is, how do you plan to reel in the crazy and irresponsible spending at City Hall? Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Let me
go ahead.
first, okay.
Yep.
We have, you know, when you think about the TIFs and the capital improvements, all the different tools that we have in our toolbox, it's not that those tools are bad, it's just how they're used. And the way we have our campaign finance, they're not doing anything wrong or illegal, but it doesn't look right without having pay-to-play laws. And how could the taxpayer not wonder are they going to vote for special interest? Well, that's one of the things that does need to be changed, but of course, in city council, we can't affect that. But to answer your question, how I would vote on these issues is that I think a lot of it, how we're using these tools is not appropriate. I would vote no on a lot of these issues because, as the gentleman said, that developers have really run away with the city. And if you ever hear them use the term, well, it's not taxpayers' money, I always laugh at that because all money is taxpayer money.
Exactly.
Okay, the city is not a company that produces anything. All it has is its taxpayers. And it's gonna get to the point where there's gonna be a mass exodus because they're gonna keep taking and taking and taking and pack and stack and pack and stack downtown. And to answer your question once again, I would vote no on a lot of it.
John, go ahead.
The thing that I look at when I'm looking at an issue to decide on is if that money was coming out of my pocket, would I want it spent that way? And in a lot of cases, the answer is no. So my vote would be no. Now, I was on the park board for 4 years. We had a lot of parks that needed maintenance. I don't know why, but the city council is always able to put off park maintenance. They're able to put off a lot of other maintenance. And one of the biggest things you do for the quality of life in a city is take care of the maintenance. Now, McAdams Park is one of the best solid parks in the city. Holds the water the best. Edgemore Park was losing 1.5 feet a day. They had to shut it down. I understand that. They should have fixed it, but go back to McAdams Park a minute. I told them they needed to spend about $50,000 and paint that place. If any of you have seen it, it looks like a war camp or something. It's all this terrible looking cement. It's got a fence around it that isn't very nice. And if I was a kid, I don't know whether I'd want to swim in that thing or not. But the city doesn't look at alternatives to expenses. They just want to shut something down, trade into a different item, and save that money for these kind of projects, folks. We got $7 million in Gander Mountain. They're wondering if they shut it down, if the city's going to get that $7 million back that they put in it. That's how some of the money goes. And we need a different approach to how we decide to do economic development. Economic development should be something everybody in this room agrees is a good way to spend money, to help people get jobs, to help prosper the city, to provide a service that we need, something of that nature. We're just not going that way. We're going for the David Burks and the folks that build apartments and line their pockets because they don't pay that money back. We'll talk about the tax increment financing another time.
Thank you, John.
Okay, I have to let Janet speak for herself, but I know one of Janet's major concerns is the homeless.
Homeless?
Homeless people and homeless veterans, because as a veteran, that's one of my pet projects, homeless veterans, what we can do to help the homeless. And instead of building and tearing down and building, we need to work on this, what we can do to help with our citizens. Our people is what make this city, and we help to focus on our people. What do we need to help them? What can we do to get the homeless off the bridges?
Before we leave you, do you see any spending that the city is doing that is wasteful or not good? Obviously, we're not doing enough for the homeless.
No, we're not.
Okay,
I'd rather
so-
see them do something to help.
So where would you take the money from? Or where-
You know what, instead of building these hotels and everything, there's a lot of empty warehouses and different things around here in District 1. If you pay attention in District 1 itself, because you have a lot of homeless people that's walking these streets. They could have took some of that money, fixed up one of those abandoned warehouses that's not being used, turned it into a shelter for those people to get off. I don't know where some of those people slept during the winter. I know some of them slept outside, and I thought that was really horrible.
I agree. I agree, especially when you're spending $7 million on Gander Mountain. You know,
And-
$1 million would go
exactly.
a long ways,
And-
would go a
and the-
long ways elsewhere. It would.
And the biggest thing that I have a problem with in this right now, because I have a daughter who's a veteran, and she just came back to Wichita, you know, and trying to find the jobs. She was in Afghanistan, you know, and everything. Wichita seems to have a problem with being more concerned with helping their veterans, you know. I know we have veteran agencies and everything, the VFW and everything else, but the city has to show her veterans that she appreciates them.
Very good. Do you still remember the question, Brandon? We're talking about spending and where you see some wasteful spending and what you're gonna do to control that, so.
Okay.
But, you know, you gave a very good answer, so, good answer so far all across the
Well,
board.
in regard to wasteful spending, I think that part of the issue has been there's a lack of communication with the city. So we don't always know what projects are going on. We don't always know where this money's coming from, how it's broken down, and how it's going to affect us. That's been an issue with the city for quite some time, and one I've been saying. One of the most recent examples was the sales tax proposal in 2014. It wasn't detailed enough for the citizens. I also believe that all of our voices should be included in these decisions. So
Exactly.
citizens should be spoken with, focus groups, meetings, and citizen input should go into these decisions, as well as bringing the developers out and having them explain themselves. I've not seen that yet. What I would do on the city council is make sure that District 1 residents, City of Wichita residents are informed about these decisions. They know about them. They know the possible excess spending, how the taxes will affect them, where their money's going, and let me know how they would like me to vote. At the same time, I think it's important to look at how these different projects affect our city. So we've talked about a few things we're not a fan of, but also we're not also looking at the benefit that some of those bring. We are getting an NCAA tournament. I was not a fan of the arena when that was voted on. I don't think it has served everyone, but in the end, it is bringing an NCAA tournament here to Wichita 2 years or 2 different years. Is that going to help us out with economic development? Yeah, there's going to be more tax revenue coming in from those coming to Wichita. Hopefully they'll check out some of our amazing restaurants, and I'll be one to always try to recommend them to come to District 1 and go to Tops or some of our other great restaurants. But again, it's a lack of communication. Is there wasteful spending? Yes. We also need to reprioritize what we're spending on. Like we said, there's a lot of issues in District 1, whether it's roads that haven't been repaved in 20 years, whether it's dilapidated housing, whether it's not supporting our entrepreneurs. We need to have those conversations, but again, all of our voices matter. And I would want everyone's voice in those decisions and to talk about what we're gonna do with taxpayer money, because we all have to pay it in. A lot of us benefit, some of us benefit more than others, but that's something that we need to definitely discuss and bring those people to the table. So my vote would be determined upon not only what the citizens want, but how it's gonna affect District 1 and the city of Wichita.
Okay, before I take the second question, I want to remind you, if you want something more to eat or want to get some ice cream, just go to the east wall and come on up and just go in and out. You don't have to ask, you know, just do it. Mr. Theo Harris, you have the second question.
Yeah, and they're not even gonna have to answer this one.
We want a question.
Well,
Theo.
no, but listen, you'll enjoy it.
George.
You'll enjoy it. Janet Wilson, I could probably sit up there for her, I know her that well, and she's a very good community person. She's win and been on all kinds of boards. Her and I go to the cleanup. Her and I are the only 2 citizens that get to go to that. She was on a dangerous dog committee. And Levanta, I know most of the city council is pretty good. Levanta, I really like her. Don't like the way she votes. James Glendenin, really like him. Don't like the way he votes. I don't really like the way a lot of the city council. Levanta just voted to pay give $100,000 for that one building downtown, which luckily it didn't pass 4-3. But I was wondering, Brandon looks very well pedigreed. I know Janet, she's awesome. And John has a lot of expertise. Is there any way they could do like 1 week at a time? Because I really think they're all great. I really think they're all great. So,
Okay, well, we'll let you get away with that one.
You need to be up here to speak.
Good question. No, I don't think you can do one at a time. We do have term limits, so they'll get their turn. So, okay, very good. Several other people that had their hand up. I think the gentleman in the yellow shirt is next, and then I'm going to take James.
This question's for Mr. Johnson and any other candidate who wants to chip in. Mr. Johnson, how would you plan to decrease unemployment in District 1, and what things could be done to help better retain talented, young, educated people who stay here in Wichita to grow these businesses instead of taking their talents elsewhere?
Okay, since you're specified, you go first, and then anybody else who wants to address that can.
Growing jobs in District 1 is a priority for me. If you all have to hand out economic development in a different way. We need to support entrepreneurship. Now, Wichita is starting to do that quite a bit. And I believe that as we can take control of our own destiny and build our own businesses, we all know Pizza Hut started here in Wichita. And I think that we need to do a better job of supporting the young entrepreneurs here. We have great ideas. There's a few restaurants opening. I know folks who want to open stores, and we should be doing what we can to help them. If we're looking at investments, it's cheaper to help a startup or someone who's only been around 5 years than it is to help these big corporations. If we're looking at building your American dream, it's best to help the Wichitan here that wants to do that and hire jobs, because it's going to be sustainable. They're going to stay here, they're going to anchor their business here, and it's going to support our city. So I would do all I can to support entrepreneurs. Any efforts right now, I've been working with State Senator Aletha Faust-Godot on a bill called the Kansas Reinvestment Act, again, reprioritizing money that we have to focus on areas of low income where we can get businesses supported. This bill's not a handout. You can't use it to hire people. You can't buy personal vehicles to take care of yourself. This is used for your business. Let's say you have a restaurant. There's this new machine that can turn out 2,000 donuts in a day, and it costs you $15,000. This bill would actually allow you to get that and help grow your business. So that's going to increase revenue for you. You get to pay that money back, so it does come back to the state and the government gets that money back. But you're also building your American dream and controlling your destiny. These are the types of initiatives I support and the things I've been working on. We had one committee hearing already, and we're hoping that when it gets reintroduced next year in the Commerce Committee, that it'll pass out and get looked at seriously by the legislature, because on the state level, they can help us with the city. At the same time, on the city level, we could be doing the same thing. We look at the support the city gives to the Douglas Design District and how great that is. A bunch of young entrepreneurs, business owners, building their district. Again, creating, controlling their own destiny. That's what I support, and I want to see more of that. A lot of my young friends have left Wichita because they didn't feel there was enough opportunity for them, not only to create their own business, but to get a good paying job. That needs to change. I support that change. Our slogan, advancing opportunity in the heart of the city. District 1 is the best district. It's the heart of the city, but it also has a lot of great opportunity. There's open suites, there's open buildings. A lot of that is cheap. A young entrepreneur can get that and create the next Pizza Hut. And then we'll be able to say we're home to that. Maybe the next tech deal. When we look at the blueprint for regional economic growth, we're diversifying our economy right now. We're getting away from just aviation and looking at 6 different areas in which our economy can grow. We need to support that, and I think that we create more jobs, we create more opportunity, and we keep more of our young people here.
Okay, 3-second warning. That was a very substantive answer. I appreciate it. We have 3 other candidates that might like to address that. George, go.
Okay. Talking about growing the economy, a couple years ago, I wrote an initiative, and the idea was, I don't know how many are familiar with Jay Maxwell's project down in South Fork, where there's an IHOP, but the idea was to get a lot of box stores in down there, and it kind of fell by the wayside. They pulled out the project. Jay doesn't know it yet, but we're trying to get him to go along with this idea. And a few years ago, and originally I'm not from here, originally I'm from California. And when I was growing up, my dad traveled all around California, and we would often go, he was a contractor, we would go into new areas, and they were building track houses. Well, when the city managers got together, they said, we can't attract big corporations down here, we're too new. So how do we build our local economy? And what I did is I took that blueprint that they used back in the 50s and 60s and up until the late 70s. And it was called entrepreneurial parks. And what these entrepreneurial parks are is, yes, partially they are city subsidized. But one of the biggest costs that entrepreneurs has in their new startups is facilities. Maybe if he's a woodworker, he can't afford the equipment or the ventilation or meeting all the guidelines. So these entrepreneur parks are pre-set up with 600 feet of retail space in the front, light manufacturing in the back, and some of the advanced ones have living space on site. Similar to a building, a business park, but just set up for entrepreneurs. So that is my initial idea to start growing the economy in South Wichita. And what this will do is, one of the things I found here in Wichita is that we have, of all the places I visited, we have so much talent here. We have engineers, artists, creative people, woodworkers, you wouldn't believe, but everybody's forced to work for aircraft companies, you know, the big industries. But when we get near retirement age, we want to do something for ourselves, but we can't operate out of our homes. So there's a lot of good, talented people that just need a place to start their business. And if you try to rent some of the locations in District 3, you can't afford it. You can't afford to go into business for yourself. So that is my initiative, or my main plan in getting a jump start in the economy in District 3.
Very good, thank you. John, did you want to address it? Or?
Yes, I would. Very good friend of mine is James Arbertha. He's president and owner of Power CDC, and he's doing a Dunbar Theater up in the heart of District 1, and I'd really like to see him get that finished before he gets much older, because he has a lot of dreams and desires to make that thing work. And the point I want to make is he's developed a lot of houses up in that area on lots and places where they have been dilapidated, and he will take that house down to the bottom and build a fresh one from scratch. And that creates construction jobs. I've been past chairman of the SCORE group, that's Service Corps of Retired Executives. And I have helped folks, I've counseled them about their businesses. I agree a lot with what Brandon said about getting entrepreneurs started. Entrepreneurs do amazing things wherever they are. They get started in an area where things aren't looking too good, they can turn it around and make it work. And SCORE has a school every month. If you have a business and you need to improve your business, get a hold of me and we'll find out how we can get you the materials that you need to go to a training class once a month. It's free. They just charge enough for the lunch, and there are several of them that are free, and I'll send you the email that'll tell you where to go to get in on those training classes. But I agree with Brandon over here. He had a lot of good ideas about helping entrepreneurs. You did too, by the way, and so.
Okay,
That's
thank you,
enough for
John.
me. Yeah.
Did you want to address the question?
I'm gonna say something. As I said, I'm not Janet Wilson, I'm Janet Green. I'm not Janet Wilson, I'm Janet Green, and I just have to speak as a citizen here, because I'm just a good old girl, okay? I'm not a politician. But I know, and I love what they're saying and everything, but now this is one of my pet peeves, okay? During the campaign trail, I hear a lot of promises. Okay, I am one of those people that is sick and tired of hearing this and seeing no action. Okay, we're gonna increase jobs. We're gonna do this. I haven't seen all these jobs yet. We're gonna do this, and I applaud them on that question. Where are the jobs at? We talk about investing in entrepreneurship. That's fine, but if we invest in small businesses, how many people are gonna get hired in those small businesses or big businesses?
Okay, time for our third question. I already said it's going to go to James Kilpatrick, and so go ahead, James.
Yeah, I've heard your views on the public-private partnership. You all support it. Tell me why the government should support something that private financial institutions won't support, because there's no benefit to it. There's no way to make a profit out of it. And what percentage of tax revenues would you dedicate to your programs?
Who goes first on that?
Okay, let's John, you went first already. Let me have Bill go first this time.
So if I understand you, what you're saying is that without the way we're currently doing things, how
The way we're currently doing it, you're financing institutions that go bankrupt, like Gander Mountain, the Ambassador Hotel. We can sit here and name one after another that we're throwing government money at.
Yeah, the way, and this is just my opinion and how I look at it, is that you can't completely get away from the larger institutions altogether. I mean, you know, we have to be practical in some sense. But it seems like we're not doing anything or making it even fair across the board for the small guy. We keep hearing the same names over and over again. And I'm not saying there's any improprieties or something unethical. I'm not saying that. But what about the small guys that don't win on these no bid contracts? They have families, they have lots of employees, and they're not getting a chance to do anything. They are cut out of the pot. So like I say, that maybe we can't change the way we currently elect our officials right now in campaign contributions. We can't change that right now, but what we can change is who we have in office to make those decisions. Because I'm all about the small guy. Corporations, America is run off small business. Now, it's great when that small business can get large enough where it can hire large people. That's the idea. But to start catering to the large people over and over again, the little guy does not stand a chance. And that's how I would deal with it, is that what's in it for the little guy? What about this other contract? Okay, so in other words, it's not gonna just continue to go to the same names we know over and over again.
So what percentage of tax revenues would you dedicate to your program? I mean, we're already spending the money, but, so you're gonna take money from some other program. So what percentage of tax revenues will you use to furnish these programs?
Okay, let's take for, go ahead. Okay, let's take for example the Entrepreneur Park, okay? That's already been subsidized. The taxpayer's already paying for it, and it's just sitting there. It can't go any farther. So like I say, I would have to get with city management, the planning department, all departments and financials to look at it. Where can we go from there to salvage this? Now, I can't give you that answer right now because I'm not privy to all the insider information. But I would look at that to see how it benefits the current amount of money we have invested. We have to salvage that project. And that's why I chose that area, because it's so large and it's already developed. It's just sitting there. So I hope that answers your question. I would have to look at the numbers, but if they don't meet my criteria, then I scrap that particular project. And then we look at another way of doing the same thing for small business.
John?
I've sat in on a lot of city council meetings and watched them discuss and debate a TIF. And how good is it for the taxpayers? And it seems like 1.2% seems like enough money payout. Now, that's not a very good payout, is it? I don't think that's enough. I think we used to figure if you couldn't make 5% on an oil and gas deal, you shouldn't do it. And that's a risky deal. Now, these deals are risky. $7 million is possibly at stake here on Gander Mountain. I don't think we should spend nearly the money we do on economic development if we have neighborhood problems out here that need to be fixed. Now, we need to bring businesses to town. The city council was trying to sell that Finney building for $100,000. Now, this is a huge building. That's terrible. Yeah, there was a lot of other clickety-clack things going on there, but they should advertise that in the Wall Street Journal and bring an entire industry in this town. If they're gonna give it that cheap, do it with some kind of a reason that makes good sense economically. There wasn't any sense in just selling that building so that guy could turn it into apartments.
Okay.
Is that close to what you're asking?
I can't figure out why the government should finance or systems that aren't gonna work.
I agree with
They're
that.
going bankrupt.
I agree with that.
Every bad deal that they make, you can sit here and line them up, one bad deal.
Exactly.
And your dreams sound good,
Yeah.
but you gotta use tax revenue to finance them, and they're probably gonna fail too.
Let's
I
not make this a
agree.
discussion here. I think Janet, probably you want to answer some, or do you want to?
No, I was telling Brendan to go
Okay,
ahead, but
all
I
right,
was
let's-
just agreeing. I'm agreeing with him every step of the way here, because I had some of the same sentiments that he has, that he's expressing.
Brandon?
Okay, can you repeat it one more time for me?
Okay. You all support public-private partnerships by your programs you wanna have. Okay? But the problem is, why should the government finance programs that private financial institutions won't touch because they're too prone to bankruptcy, too prone to failure. And yet the government goes in, throws the money into it, and then the program fails. And we've wasted the money that we should have never spent to begin with. And what percentage of the tax revenues right now, the city takes in and spends about everything it's got? What percentage of tax revenues are you going to use for your program?
So, to your first part, I would say the government should make sure that, one, as I said earlier, the citizens are more informed. And then two, make sure that developers have more skin in the game. I don't agree with allowing folks to have land for $1. I don't agree with having a building that's worth millions selling for 100,000. I think that developers need to pay much more than what they are right now. They are paying cheap prices for land and property, and they're making millions off of it. I don't agree with that. I think that they should cough up more. I also want to continue to stress that with the public-private partnership, we have to look at the benefit that it brings to Wichita as a city. And if it is beneficial to the city and the developer is more on the hook, then I would support it. But again, it's about being informed about it, knowing all the ins and outs, and how it's going to really benefit Wichita. At the same time, I will continue to say I don't agree with developers just paying cheap prices and getting those benefits. We saw that in Northeast Wichita with Walmart. Walmart came in, it put out a lot of small businesses, and then now Walmart's gone, and we have a bigger food desert there. But again, that deal I don't think was really publicized, and people didn't really know about it, because I do believe the citizens really would have pushed back to see that developers again would have got more money. Walmart was coming in. Walmart also doesn't pay really good wages anyway. So in an area that's economically depressed, you're bringing in wages at $7.25 an hour, where folks really need at least $11.50 or $12 an hour to live, not to live paycheck to paycheck, to live and to be semi-comfortable. So we need to look at, again, how it benefits the city. To your other question about what percentage of a budget, the city's last budget, I believe, was north of $530 million. So we have to look at how that's affecting public safety, fire, police, the other projects going on, and then see what investment is good. So I ran the Summer Youth Employment Training Program. That was an investment from CDBG dollars, Community Development Block Grant, from the federal government down through the city, of $150,000. That created more than 200 jobs for young people. It benefited them because they learned work skills. It benefited them because they grew their professional network, so that when they got out of that program, they were able to have a real job after that program. Then they had referrals from the community, so where they worked at. Those are things that we should invest in, because that return on investment, those kids stayed in Wichita, they shopped at Wichita businesses, and they benefited with skills for a lifetime. So that's the type of programming I support.
Perfect. Just about to run out of time there. Okay, George,
I didn't ask a question, and this one isn't even a question. I want to know how many people are from District 1, and how many people are from 3, and how many are from 6.
We can do that. We can pull, what district you live in. How many of you know what district you live in? Raise your hand. Okay, everybody, well, lots of people know. Okay, let me see your hands if you're in District 1. Let me see your hand if you're in District 2. Let me see your hand if you're in District 3. And 4, District 5, District 6, and that's it.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, so we have time for another, go ahead, Al's got a question here. We got time for just like one or two more, and that's gonna go back to that table there. These good-looking young ladies have not had a chance yet. So
I
go
understand
ahead, Al.
what I'm trying to ask, but we just, that car deal, handed them some money. Not a day or two after that, a whole bunch of their employees got word that they're going to be replaced by imports. Do you have any ideas how to put a stop to those kind of things?
Okay, could you be more specific on the car deal we're referring to?
Cargill.
Cargill. Okay. I thought you said car deal.
No,
You're talking about Cargill. Yeah, the company Cargill.
Right.
Okay, are we all familiar with Cargill and the current goings on? Okay. All right, and your question is how to prevent that type of thing from happening again?
Yes.
Well, I
mean,
guess,
that's
how do you prevent
we need
sweetheart
to-
deals?
Right, well, we need to
Well,
take,
it's H-1B visa program he's talking about.
yes, we're bringing in a bunch of people from India to replace some of them.
And replacing workers here. and then giving them money to do it
We're giving them money to do it.
besides, and that's the part that is the most hurtful right there.
There's actually more unemployed Wichitans.
Okay, so does everybody here at the table understand the question? You think so? Okay. All right. I am going to start, just so I can start with a different person every time. Janet, if you can answer for Janet here. How are we going to prevent
You
sweetheart
should have been at
deals?
this table answering for Janet. You've been on every committee with Janet.
Kill me.
You should have been here answering for her, because I'm just her friend. No, seriously. But you know what? Let me say this. Right now, I know Janet. Janet is about taking care of home, not imports, okay? No. And what she would do about it, I couldn't say. She'd probably say she'll vote no against anything that would take jobs away from anyone in Wichita, okay?
Fair enough.
And as far as, I was chomping at the bit here, but, because I love giving my personal opinion on everything, because I can't speak for anyone but myself, really. And I was listening to the gentlemen as they were talking and everything, and as a citizen, these job things, I'll be back to this, and I agree in helping small businesses, okay? However, that's the same thing. It takes so many years for them to get up, and you can say that they'll be able to hire 20 people or 100 people later on. We don't know, but we need something immediate, long term, right now, to help with this unemployment issue. And that's one of the things I did not hear get addressed, and there was a question that was asked that was back there. What are we gonna do about this? There are people that are out there hungry, they're looking for jobs, and they all of them end up at these temporary agencies. They haven't go work for a week or something. Have you ever seen these people that can't pay their bills? This is getting turned off, and they have to skip this, rob Peter to pay Paul. That is not the way this country was designed for anyone to live. Okay? Okay, I'm getting off my soapbox.
No, that's fine. Brandon?
So in regard to the H-1B visas, I believe that's more of a federal level issue. So on the city council, I would be very open and eager to work with our federal level elected officials. But what I would say is I don't believe government controls a business. So if we're helping out one of those businesses, we can say what we prefer them not to do. But ultimately, that business kind of controls their hiring process. I believe that Wichita has enough talent that they could hire. I would like to see more Wichitans with those jobs. But again, I would reach out to Congressman Estes or Senator Roberts or Moran and talk to them about that issue. Because again, on the city council level, we really don't have much say on that. But I'd be happy to give my opinion on it and talk to those business leaders about that.
Hey, Bill?
Yeah, I have to concur with Mr. Johnson, but if I could answer that question by giving you an example of just how we are currently doing things, and I won't mention any names, but maybe I could describe this without stepping on toes. But recently, when I asked somebody on city council, the money that we recently gave to Spirit, as a tax deferment, and they said, well, the jobs that they were going to create would be phenomenal. I think it was 150 jobs. And I asked them, I said, well, okay, but is there a guarantee on those jobs? How many of those 150 jobs would be Sedgwick County or residents of the city of Wichita? Here was the answer. There is no guarantee. We're reaching out globally rather than taking care of right here. It's our money, but there's no guarantees. So if they go belly up or they pull out, we're on the hook again.
Exactly.
So that I hope that answers your question. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that we're bending over backwards for these parties, and that tax base is shrinking and it's cutting into our schools by doing that, because that's ordinarily that funds 259, parts of 259.
Yes.
Okay, and then we turn right around and give more money. That's the parts that stop. What we're doing is we're paying for our own demise.
Exactly.
So that is, I hope that answers your question, is we need to cut it off.
John, do you have anything new to add to what's already been said? Because
It's
we
a
have
little
two more
bit new.
questions. So
I used to work for Charles Koch years ago when I was a whole lot younger. And I'm gonna tell you, Charles Koch had today he's got 100,000 people that work for him. It's the second most successful privately owned business in the United States. Do you know who the first most successful privately owned business in the United States? It's Cargill. The ones that are gonna tear down the old Eagle building, and they're gonna build, and the city's gonna pay for the largest parking garage, and they're just handing that to them as part of their way of economic development.
I don't get it.
Now, that somehow is gonna help them. How's it gonna help them?
How's it gonna help the people?
They have a huge, if you're gonna talk about this deal in a city council meeting, you're gonna know how much money these people have, because you're gonna ask them. You're gonna make them provide their financial statements. And you're gonna see that they'd be better equipped to pay for that parking garage than the city of Wichita. That means all of us in this room who pay taxes are paying for that parking garage. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Taxpayers Association.
At the back table, I have questions. You told me your name, and I'm sorry I forgot to. The lady in the beautiful red hair. Caitlin.
Yes, this question is for Brandon.
Bring the volume up. So
I don't talk very loud.
There you go.
This question is for Mr. Johnson.
specifically?
Everyone else can answer too, though.
Okay.
How important is government transparency, and what will you do to ensure that the government is transparent?
Okay, the question is, how important is government transparency to you, and what will you do to ensure that we have Wichita City government transparency? That's a very good question.
Government transparency is definitely a top priority for me. I've seen enough city council meetings and board meetings to know that there's a lot going on that the citizens don't know about. What I would do, my commitment, my promise, my guarantee as a city council member will be to inform you to the best of my ability. So if it's social media, if it's coming back here, if it's at our public meetings, if it's knocking doors, to let you know what's going on. There's a lot of boards making decisions right now about urban infill, and most of us don't know about it. We don't know who's on the boards. We don't know what decisions are being made. We don't know about the current land bank proposal that's out there. So I will do my best to let you know everything going on, and government transparency is key. We all pay taxes. Government is for the people, by the people. So therefore, we should all know what's going on in government. So that's my commitment to make sure that happens. And again, by any means necessary, I will let you all know what's going on. And one of the things I've been trying to do now is just via social media. If I go to a meeting and something's going on, I try to let folks know about it. So this urban infill committee is pretty important to District 1 and District 3. There are borders drawn about what are we going to do about the empty lots, the dilapidated properties, and there are folks at the table, some of them developers, trying to decide right now about what to do with that. How many of you in this room knew about that?
Well,
So-
sort of.
So therefore, I will make that a priority to let you all know what's going on. And again, transparency is key to me. I believe that if I'm paying taxes, if I voted for you, or even if I voted against you, as a representative of me, you need to let me know what's going on. One, so I can be informed, and then two, so I can let you know what I think about it, whether you like it or not. So that's my guarantee.
Thank you. Janet?
Well, I'm gonna say this, Janet Wilson is one of the people, a people person. She always has been, always believe in standing up for the people. She is, I'll just put her, she's one of us. She is very good lady, she is concerned about people. As I said before, people is her business. Getting the word out there to people. I've seen Janet walk and knock on many doors. Janet get out there in the mix of everything. She puts it out there, and I love her for it. That's one of the reasons why I am involved in my neighborhood association, because of people like her. Because I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. And she's like, no, get out that wrong attitude and get up and pay attention to what's going on in the community. Do not settle for this or that. That's the type of person she is, and that's why I've been involved in my neighborhood association for the last 8 years or so.
Okay.
Now I'm the president now.
Very good. John, take it away.
This sheet on your table, if you don't have one, I've got plenty left.
I got one.
This is an example of the lack of transparency. It wasn't that it was impossible to get these numbers, but I had to get a researcher named Bob Weeks. Some of you've heard of him. The man writes a blog. He told me how this worked. And these are the numbers that composite the amounts of money that taxpayers, federal, state, and local, put into this Ambassador Hotel. And I think the word, James, didn't you say the word is they're not doing too good?
Yeah.
I said they'd fail in 3 years, it's been 4 years.
They must not be doing too good or we'd have heard about it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what happens, I mean, big-time government programs if you don't have transparency. So I agree with Brandon and Janet, and we'll see what Bill says.
I want to answer your question. I think transparency and communication go hand in hand. As a longtime activist in District 3, it wasn't until recently that we were able to open lines of communication to programs they've already had there, but just nobody took advantage of them. It's called community service. And you just couldn't get anything up the channel. And then by the time it got to the to that city council member, it was pretty much shut down because it already got weighed in a lot of departments. So I didn't like the way we were doing communication. So I called a friend of mine who just so happens to have, he's in District 3 in Phoenix, Arizona. And something he did is what I currently have going on right now. I will just simply change it over to me as a city councilman. And the website that I have is d3voice.org. And what it is, the whole premise of the website is, it's your district, you decide.
Exactly.
And it's an open line of communication that I've had for 2 years now. Even though I'm not on city council, I still like to communicate with everybody in the area, what's going on. It's kind of like that app Nextdoor, have you heard of that, where you communicate? Well, this just dealt with lines of communication where I could take them right up the channel. If you had an idea where we should spend some money, let's talk. So if I'm elected city council, you will have a direct line with me, not an email or anything, but you'll see what I've got going on. Or if you have an issue with the Parks Department or city maintenance, street maintenance like I do, you can communicate with me. I go right to Mr. King. We try to resolve this. And so I think that's part of transparency, but it's also a way to get things done. Because citizens, especially in Southeast Wichita, feel so disenfranchised from their leaders. And that's not going to be the way I run business. Open communication, I'm going to be out there talking and working with everyone.
Thank you, Bill. We have another question here in the back, and we're going to make this the last question unless, let me poll the group here. Does anybody else have to answer a question? Something that we haven't covered, an area? Debbie wants a question. I have one myself. I was going to save for last, but this young lady here in the blue has a question. Would you, you don't, oh, I thought you had your hand up before.
No, it's just me.
Okay, just you then. Okay, any other questions in the group? Debbie, I think you got it. Go ahead.
Well, each and every one of you have said that you want more transparency. So my question is, how transparent is it for city government to have their meetings during the working hours when your tax base is
Here you go.
working and they can't
Perfect
make it
question.
to the meetings? So how are you in favor of changing those meetings to the evening when those of us who work, those of us who pay taxes, can attend the meetings? I mean, I think that would really open up.
Here, here. Very good question. Bill, we'll go ahead and start on that end and come this way with that.
Just right off the top of my head, I assume if the logistics, can be, if it's, reasonable and it's valuable, I just don't see a reason why not.
Well, you are correct. They don't have their law department, or they could run and get the law department to help with the meeting. They don't have the receptions. Well, why not? Cut an hour somewhere else. I agree, but that is why. That you are correct. Go ahead. Are you finished?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, John?
Well, that is an excellent point, because you have to have personnel available to answer questions. You have the park department, the director of parks, Alan King, director of
City manager.
City manager has to be there. And a lot of these folks are like other folks. They have things to do in the evening, and so they need to be involved in a meeting during the day. But that doesn't mean they can't have some meetings designated for the evening. I don't think I'd do them all, but I certainly would be in favor of having some designated at certain times where maybe you didn't have to have expert testimony, if that makes sense.
Yes. Maybe have 2 meetings.
something.
have one and then another, but go, I'm not being a candidate here, so go ahead. Janet, you go ahead.
I'm not a candidate either, but
Well, you're filling in for one.
yeah, I'm just kidding.
Well, you might be one day.
No, no. No, but you know, and I know currently what they have in place, and they're saying if you go to the City of Wichita website and you can look at the archives of the city council meeting, and they try and make it available that way. And I'm gonna tell you, that's a nuisance, because I've tried to do it several times.
Me too.
Okay, so I'm not the only one that didn't know how to get
But
there.
that's after the fact.
After the
I'm
fact,
not there to
exactly.
give testimony or
That's
ask
right.
questions to my city council.
And the agenda is not posted until the
Exactly.
day of. I know exactly what you're saying. Well, I had an issue one time, and I'm a fighter, and I don't accept no very easily, you know, so I call there and bug the snot out of everybody. I really do, because I don't accept no on something that's important to me. However, I don't have any answers for that. I don't know how they can do this to make it available for everyone. Maybe it is an option to have a separate meeting for key issues. When they have something new coming up, everyone should be informed, and they should have a special forum set up just for, they can have it on a Saturday.
Sure, Saturday or
Saturday
evening,
or
one, too.
Sunday, they can do it after church. You know, some of us go to church.
Bring
but-
back Monday night at the fights.
Brandon?
There you go.
That's Monday Night Football.
Tuesday night.
Oh, that's all right, y'all can pass football.
To answer your question, I do support that. I have talked with a few of the city council members in years prior about that, because it was a frustration for me as well about some issues I had. To the logistics, I wouldn't say everyone should be in the evening, because now that, you know, I have a family and got 2 little kids, I know I wouldn't want to do that every Tuesday. But I think that we should have 1 or 2 per month in the evening so that people can come there. And if there's a big issue, so one of these developers has a project or something like that, that should be in the evening so that everyone can come there, their input can be heard, preferably not at 5:30, because if you get off at 5 and you got traffic, so maybe a 6 or 6:30 type meeting. But I do support that. I think it would be good. I think we get more citizen input and the citizenry would be more informed.
A town hall meeting on
John wants to
Saturday.
add something to it?
Could I add just a little quickie?
Sure, go ahead.
Channel 7, for those of you who don't know, Channel 7 is paid for by us taxpayers. They produce it and they put it on Cox Cable. Now, if you have Cox Cable for your television, you can get Channel 7 and you can watch the council meeting during the day on a timely basis.
I'm
But if you
working
don't, that's a problem. That
That's my
doesn't solve
point.
that problem.
That's my point.
But the point that I'm making out of this is that they don't make Channel 7 available to Dish Network and DirecTV and the regular TV. It's a special deal with Cox, but your taxes pay for it. And it's a pet peeve of mine, and I definitely want to make an issue out of that in this election.
Jim, go ahead. We have one
I
more.
just want to make a comment.
Go ahead.
More important than the city council meetings are the workshops. That's when a lot of the behind the scenes work is being done that all you see at the council meeting is what they want you to see. So try to, if you really want to know what's going on, go to the workshops and watch them. And then, if you do get to go to the council meeting, you'll be more informed.
Okay. The last question I'm reserving for myself. The Wichita City Council has a big responsibility in all of the city statutes. And each of those council members, when one or more of you will be holding your hand up and swearing, you're going to swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States. Right now, we have got 7 cowards on the city council who knowingly, even though they held up their hand and said they would protect the Constitution of the United States, they voted to stop the pro-life groups from exercising their First Amendment constitutional rights at the abortion facility here in Wichita. And they stopped us about a month ago on the 28th, and they will not allow signs to be set. They wrote it in a new city sign code. They passed that. They brought the police force out on a Friday morning, said we got a new sign code, and you set one of those signs, you know, you're going to be in trouble. And so we're obeying the law, of course we do. But the law is so far away from the Constitution, it's ridiculous. It had already been adjudicated every one of the items. It's a complicated matter, I'll admit that. But we had, during the time that abortionist Tiller was alive, he was murdered, of course, in 2009. But between 2004 and 2009, there was about a dozen lawsuits against the pro-life groups. And every time it either went to court and they said they have the First Amendment right, the pro-lifers win. They'd go again at another angle, and it would either go, and finally it didn't even get past the expense of attorneys. I said, we can't stop them. They have a First Amendment right to be there doing that. In spite of all this, we have a group of 7 on the city council that despise what the pro-lifers do with their graphic signs to the extent that they are willing to walk over the constitutional rights of the about 211 people that regularly like to come out and do what they can to try to save the life of a child about to be aborted. So my question is, how important will you take your oath of office to uphold the Constitution if you are elected as a city council member? So it should be a fairly simple answer. And Brandon, I'll start with you and go that way.
Well, I support the Constitution, and I don't agree with targeting any group for whatever reason. Free speech is free speech for a reason, and whether I agree or disagree, that's not up to me. It's in the Constitution. You have the right to do it. So I don't agree with targeting groups, and I will uphold the Constitution.
Yeah, and will you vote for an ordinance, a city ordinance, that is blatantly in violation of a part of the Constitution and has been proven and adjudicated to be so in the past?
No, I would not do that again. I don't support targeting groups. And if there's an ordinance up for vote that targets a specific group for a specific reason, whether it's in violation of the Constitution or not, I wouldn't support it.
It even says that our children cannot write on the sidewalk with sidewalk chalk. And the city council acted like they had no idea that it said that, but they put the 80-page amendment on that and voted on it.
I think the city council members should read things before they vote. I will read it before I vote.
Janet?
80 pages is a lot.
Well,
80 extra pages to the 169 page.
But it's your job as a city council member to represent the people, so you should be reading what you're voting on.
Agreed.
true. I myself, and I know Janet believes in freedom of speech, and now that I'm aware of this, because I am appalled that we have to go back to some archaic thing where you're prohibiting people from expressing their right, their God-given right. This Constitution, this country is built on the right to voice your opinion. We all do not have to agree on everything, but we have to respect one another's beliefs. And to trample on that, now what should happen at the city council, anyone that gets elected in office should step right in there from the beginning and say, let's get this off of this now. This was wrong. It should never have been there in the first place. That's what should happen. We don't leave it, correct it. And that's what we need to have done.
Their position is that let us go through court. It may take us 2 years to get it straightened out, but they'll have 2 years of without our graphic signage.
What I'm saying is they need to get it corrected now.
I agree.
Because that's wrong.
They
And
know it's unconstitutional.
We have these candidates here that are running, and y'all need to act upon it. Whoever's elected, get it out of there now. There's no room for people's rights being trampled, because if one right gets violated, that gives people room to continue on to violate every little personal right that we have. And I don't like my rights violated. I don't know about anyone else. I stand up for my rights.
And I'm not
It's not
implying
acceptable.
that James Clendenin is not ill tonight. He very well may be ill. But I think that this is the issue that got him sick. That's why he's not here.
Well, I'm just telling you that, we have everyone has their freedom of speech. We do not suppress it. Just like you got people protesting here and there, but everybody got the right to protest for whatever issue they choose to protest for. That's their right. That's why people died in this country for people's rights.
Here.
I get off of my soapbox now because
Good responses so far. Thank you. John, what do you think?
If you are pro-life and you want to support a candidate who's pro-life, you absolutely should be able to put that sign in the parking for a certain number of days. Now, I realize if you don't take those signs down after the election, then it becomes sort of a mess for the city. And you need so many days to take the sign down. But if you want to support a candidate
Exactly.
who believes something in a certain direction or certain way, then you should be able to put that sign out there
That's true.
so many days in advance, and then have so many days to take the sign down. And,
Well, this is a different section, but that's another
Well,
section that was changed
okay.
as well. So.
but as far as the Constitution, yes, I believe in the Constitution.
Would you vote for something knowing that it's unconstitutional,
No.
saying, well, let them go to court and try to get it off our
No,
books?
not
That's what we've got going on right
If
now.
I ever do that, you get on my case, Mark.
I will. I
I'll
will.
come see
You
you
know me
myself.
well. Yeah, you get
Bill,
on.
what do you
I will come
think?
see you myself.
I certainly will
Whoever's elected, I can see both of you.
support the Constitution, and I would never cross that line.
That's,
But also too, if I could give an example of that, of just why that's so important. And I don't know what happens to the city council as time goes on. All of a sudden, they become elitists and become extremely arrogant when you ask questions. I don't know what happens. Maybe there's a gas leak or something. But let me give you an example. It's over this blight issue, which is very important because it's affecting the entire city. And you kept hearing this and reading it in the paper, maybe hearing it on NPR. But they were saying that the Governor Brownback's office said no, because until you put some guidelines in there, we want to make sure people's property rights are protected. I thought that was reasonable. But the city council played it off as, we don't have any tools in our toolbox, that we need to have those seizure laws, eminent domain. So something that could just easily be clarified just by a statement of intent
right.
of how things can be handled is all that was asked for. But they can't seem to do that. So was there an ulterior motive? And that's what I'm saying about you have to support the Constitution and everybody's rights and their right to free speech. Also their rights of being a property owner next door to a blighted piece of property. Or in my area, I live right off Broadway. I see it all day after day after day. And the only jobs that are being created in my district is more pimps, prostitutes, and drug dealers. That's not the kind of economy I want to grow.
Exactly.
There you go. Okay, let's give them all a big round of applause.